Colorado destroying Arizona 34-7. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Colorado Buffaloes. Tyler Brown, 76.9 grade, the offensive guard. Good game for him. Nakai Hill-Green, the linebacker, at a 74.7. LeJonte Wester, your guy, Dalton, 74.6 grade. Chidozie Nwankwo at a 73.4 grade. Shane Cokes at a 72.2. And Shedeur Sanders at a 67.1 grade against Arizona. Let's go over to Arizona side with their highest graded players in this one. Jack Luttrell with an 80.5 grade overall. Kamula Kaiui at a 70.3. Chase Kennedy, 70.2. Tay Brown, 69.7. Demetrius Freeney, 69.1. And Noah Fafita with a 57.8 grade in the loss to Colorado. Don, for you, what's the depth of the story?
So I think there's a couple of things here when you look at that list of players for Colorado. Isn't really, for the most part, that's not really the usual suspects, right? I mean, when you talk about Shedeur Sanders, actually had his lowest graded game of the season. You know, he made some mistakes in the second quarter, especially in this game. And the one thing that stood out to me, first of all, just a dominant effort team-wide, right? And I think that's one of the things, again, we said it last week, even though they lost to K-State, Colorado's a Big 12 contender, right? And it's even tighter now because we saw Texas Tech lose. We saw Iowa State showed some vulnerability. BYU showed some vulnerability. They're the two undefeated teams left in the conference. But this conference race is wide open, and I think we saw, even in a loss to K-State, that they're a contender. Now, if you're going to be a contender, go and beat down a struggling team like Arizona, because Arizona's been struggling ever since Big 12 play started, and that's exactly what they did. But the one thing that stood out for me with Colorado, they actually got a pass rush going this week. And look, as a team, 67.4 pass rush grade, that's a season high, and they only had 2 games last year that were higher than that. They had Noah Fafita under pressure on almost 53% of his dropbacks. I mean, I'll tell you what, I know we talk about Fafita and McMillan and how good they can be, but you pressure a guy that much and you have a 44% pass rush win rate as a team and you sack a guy 7 times, I mean, the Colorado now, I've talked about their run defense a lot. Everyone talks about the secondary a lot with Travis Hunter, obviously, and Shiloh and Preston Hodge and all those guys. Now you get a pass rush going. You get Nwankwo going. You get B.J. Green going. Shane Cokes had a good – I mean, their whole defensive line, now, if they're going to put together a pass rush now, this defense just keeps getting better. I mean, to go into Arizona, and for some reason Arizona was favored coming into this game. I didn't really understand that, but I won't question the books. If they get a pass rush going now, especially sending 4 – you got problems at all 3 levels of this defense facing them. You really do. And I know Arizona's been struggling in offense, but against the struggling offense, this defense did what they were supposed to do. But it was good to see them get a pass rush because we'd already talked enough about their run D and coverage and, even mixing things up in coverage and those 2 aspects. If they're going to get that third phase going now on their defense, that, again, I think it's pretty clear they're at least one of the Big 12 contenders.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially with their defense playing like this.
Yeah, I'll go to the Arizona side for that, just because Arizona negative .714 EPA per pass in this one. Noah Fafita, 47.7 passing grade, 0 big-time throws, 2 turnover-worthy plays, 16 for 26 for 138 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He took 7 sacks, like you mentioned, 5.3 yards per attempt, over almost 3.3 seconds average time to throw. Dawn, he is forcing it right now, and he knows his offense really relies on him and Tedero McMillan. And last year, this offense had balance with him, Tedero McMillan, Jonah Coleman, Jacob Cowling, Tanner McLaughlin. They don't have that right now, and he's really, really forcing it. He's trying to be Superman, and he's not Cam Ward. He's not able to do that, right? So that's a big problem with him right now. And over the last 3 weeks for Noah Fafita, he has a 45.3 passing grade. That's the 6th worst in the Power 4. And over those last 3 weeks, he has 1 big-time throw and 8 turnover-worthy plays. That's the most in the Power 4 right now over those last 3 weeks. So it has been a rough last 3 weeks, not only for Arizona, but more specifically for their quarterback, Noah Fafita. He is really, really struggling, and I really think he's forcing it right now. He's holding the ball for a very long time, and last year he was getting rid of it quickly. He just doesn't look very comfortable right now. It has been a rough stretch for Noah Fafita recently.
Yeah, it has, and it's that the one number that sticks out to me there is 8 turnover-worthy plays, because I don't think he had 8 turnover-worthy plays all of last season. I mean, it's just it is. He's forcing it. I mean, we've seen it, and Tedero McMillan only had 5 catches for 38 yards in this game. They don't have enough answers, and Fafita is trying to find the answers and force it downfield, and it's just not it's just not there for Arizona. They don't have enough weapons, and they don't have, honestly, a creative enough offense to work around their lack of weapons.
So 8 turnover-worthy plays. Don, he has 12 turnover-worthy plays total this year. He had 0 in the first 2 weeks, and now he has 12 since then.
How many did he have last year?
9.
And he had 8 in the last 3 games.
8 in the last 3 games.
That says it all to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's just not a guy that we're used to putting the ball in danger like that. That's probably my favorite thing about him last year was ball security and how efficient he was and not giving the ball away.
He had 9 big-time throws last year. He has 9 this year, but it's just the turnover-worthy plays are so up, and it's a big problem for him right now. So, yeah, rough game for Noah Fifita. But Dalton, for you, what was the most impressive part of this Colorado victory?
I finally get to do it. I told you in the preseason this guy was going to be a really good fit in this offense. I finally get to do it. The FAU legend himself, LeJohntay Wester, finally had his breakout game.
Yep.
I know he's been, before this game, he had scored a touchdown, at least 1 touchdown in 5 straight games, caught the Hail Mary that tied the Baylor game, right? But he hadn't had that big day. He had moments, but he hadn't had the big day. And with Travis Hunter out, that's a big thing. He needs somebody else to step up here, right? Last week had a big touchdown late in the game. This week, 8 catches for 127 yards, 6 first downs, 77.5 receiving grade. He's the guy stepping up right now. And Will Shepherd's been good too, but I mean, how could I not? He had 127 receiving yards. I believe Arizona only had like 10 more yards than that total. I think it was like 137 or
138,
138 total, and LeJohntay had 127. He was terrific. Look, him working in the slot, I told you, this is not just some guy who tore up the American at FAU. This is a guy who can really, really play, stepping up for him in a big way right now. If he's going to be the number 1 guy, I promise you he's used to it because that's what he did for 2 years at FAU. It's just he was their entire offense. So, no, big credit. I finally got to do it at least once this year. FAU legend LeJohntay Wester gets it for me this week.
I'm glad you got that, and honestly...
One more I want to point out, too, because Wester's stepping up on offense with Hunter out. Colton Hood with Hunter out again, especially for the second half, had another interception this week. Second straight week with an interception in place of Hunter.
I was just going to say that. I said with Travis Hunter out, my most impressive part is the Colorado coverage unit. They had a 75.8 coverage grade. Travis Hunter only played 8 coverage snaps in this game. And Tedero McMillan, who right now is the number 1 receiver in the draft according to our big board, 5 catches for 38 yards against Colorado. With Travis Hunter out, Colorado still held Tedero McMillan in check. And yes, the pass rush was the biggest reason for Colorado's success in this game, but their coverage unit stepped up as well. And I mentioned before, Noah Fifita, 3.3 second average time to throw. That doesn't happen without great coverage. And Colorado was really covering well down the field. He held onto that football, Noah Fifita did. He took more hits. To do that all without Travis Hunter is really, really impressive. So want to shout out Colorado's coverage unit. Colton Hood, you mentioned, has been great so far. DJ McKinney had a good game as well. Colorado's coverage unit overall was outstanding. And holding Tedero McMillan to under 40 yards when your best corner, a guy who's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft, was out for basically the entire game, that's a really, really impressive team performance by Colorado.
It makes you wonder real quick, because I believe it was yesterday. I forget the exact number. I think it was Hunter in the first half. He played something like somewhere around 30 offensive snaps and only like 12 or 13 on defense. And if a guy like Colton Hood's going to play like that, I know Hunter being the two-way guy is the special thing that can win him the Heisman and all that, but just to keep him healthy. And so let's be honest. They're obviously good, right? Yeah. And they have depth. They have enough depth to survive a game like this without a Travis Hunter, right? It kind of cost them the K-State game, though, right? If they want to contend, they need a healthy Travis Hunter to some extent. If you have guys stepping up in that secondary, and whenever you get Hunter completely healthy and feeling good about it, actually, it was really good that he got to sit the second half of this game, not take all those hits like that. Is there a chance you could see that same kind of lean on offense, where it's like maybe he plays 3/4 to 80% on offense, and then maybe on defense when you need him, instead of 130 snaps every single week? Because it's clear, like, between last year, it's not that he's, like, injury prone. It's that if you play 130 snaps,
anyone's injury prone.
He's twice as likely to get injured as anybody else, just on the snap count. Is there a chance here that maybe if this secondary is good enough without him, at least in maybe obvious passing situations where you go, maybe we need him more on offense. Maybe we just lean him a little bit that way instead of playing every single snap. I think it's interesting to see where the usage of Hunter goes, especially if the secondary keeps playing the way they did yesterday.
The only thing I do think it's not a bad idea. The only thing that keeps me from saying they'll do that is that they're going for Heisman. I think everyone in that building is going for a Heisman.
Sure, and the more he plays, the better percentage chance you have to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
On both sides of the ball. That is a fact. But the higher risk that you run of him not playing,
right.
I don't think they can win the Big 12 without him.
No, I agree.
If he's out.
I agree.
So do we dial it back from 130 snaps a game to, okay, he's still playing 90 or 100, and maybe we lean in on where we need him. If we need him more on offense, I think it's it's the same conversation we're going to have when he gets the NFL too.
Yeah.
It's like, can he actually play every single snap every single week?
I just know how not critical, but how big that Heisman is for that program right now, and they're really going after it. I think listen, they have been cautious for the last 2 weeks.
I mean, their quarterback could win it too.
Yeah.
Easy now. They might backdoor their way into
They could.
I'm just saying. Also, just real quick, Shedeur, not his best game, couple of big mistakes in the second quarter, but about my second quarterback, in part because a game like this where he made some mistakes and still got through it, graded a 67. I've talked about this with some other guys. I've gotten some serious heat for talking about Joe Burrow like this lately, but we'll get to that on the other show. Battling through, right, without your number one receiver, with Jimmy Horn, playing but still probably banged up, with guys like LeJontay Wester and Will Shepherd carrying the load, and Shedeur just still finds a way to get through it, and they pretty casually score 34 points in this game. So, to me, I'm pretty sure you agree with this. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, at least for the draft, if not for college football right now, those are the two best quarterbacks in the country, right?
Yeah, for the draft especially.
Dylan Gabriel's probably like the third guy I could throw in that mix.
For the draft, I don't think it's
for the
close.
draft. For the draft, I probably wouldn't, just the tools, but for college for this season, Dylan Gabriel's kind of in that mix too. But I think Cam and Shedeur are pretty easily, in some order, the two best quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah, and I think those two for the draft especially. Like I think it's those. I tweeted out. I say Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, is everyone else for the NFL draft right now. Everyone else. I'm not comfortable saying anyone's even in that tier with them right now for the NFL draft.